Hello everyone, my name is Isaiah Estrada, and today I will be presenting Philemon verses 8 through 10. I'm sorry, 10 through 18. This is New King James for those of you who want to follow along at home. I appeal to you for my son Onesimus, whom I have begotten while in my chains, who once was unprofitable to you, but now is profitable to you and to me. I am sending him back. You, therefore, receive him, that is my own heart, whom I wish to keep with me, that on your behalf he might minister to me in my chains for the gospel. But without your consent, I wanted to do nothing, that your good deed might not be out of compulsion, as it were, but voluntary. For perhaps he departed for a while for this purpose, that you might receive him forever, no longer as a slave, but more than a slave, a beloved brother, especially to me, but how much more to you, both in the flesh and in the Lord. If then you count me as a partner, receive him as you would me. But if he has wronged you or owes you anything, put that on my account. I want you to take home 3 ideas from just these 8 verses. The first idea is simply this: forgive. Paul is calling for his friend to forgive someone. But let's look a little deeper than that. Paul is calling for Philemon. Obviously, this is called the Book of Philemon, and this is a letter of Paul. Now, Philemon is most likely someone of at least somewhat high stature, so possibly noble birth, as he owns slaves. Now, Paul is calling for Philemon to forgive Onesimus, a slave. Now, a slave, would have been considered, as nothing. For Philemon, Onesimus may have seemed like a dog who bit the hand of his master. And for such animals, putting him down is the natural thing to do. So not only is he calling for Philemon to forgive Onesimus, but he's saying he is not a slave anymore. He is a brother to us, and Christ is within him. Tongue's dry. The second idea I want to bring forth is that through Christ we are all made equal. He lives in us, and you would not dare put a chain on the neck of God. Therefore, treat your slaves as you would a member of your own family. Now you may say, how does this apply to the modern day? Well, for one, slavery is still legal in some countries. And 2, you can easily make someone a slave through, say, something like being a higher authority. If you're a boss or a manager, there's a reason why they call those kinds of people slave drivers. Now, I don't think you understand how revolutionary an idea this was for the time. Modern day we think, slavery is an evil. Why would a Christian own slaves? But Paul has just said something, that if you are in Christ, you should free your slaves. In those times, you would not hire someone to go out and harvest your wheat or pick your vineyards, whatever, what have you. But you had slaves to do that. And those slaves would be regarded as little as like a goldfish in the modern day. If it dies, I can get another one. Now, these words that Paul has just spoken would help lay the foundation for the very country that we live in today. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the Bill of Rights. More than 1,000 years later, 1,800 years later, what have you, almost 2,000 years later, that is the impact of one who lives in Christ. The third idea is the main one I want you to take home. So let's go through the motions really quick. I want you to see this through the eyes of Philemon. To start off, everyone needs to understand something. Paul is obviously friends with Philemon. Therefore, we can assume that Philemon is a Christian. And therefore, he knows the story of Jesus and perhaps some Old Testament stories as well, as Paul was a Jew. And he probably shared some stories. Now, this is important when looking through the point of view of Philemon. Now, I want you to imagine with me, imagine your slave, you are Philemon, and your slave has done something so horrible that he is feared for his life and he has ran away. Now, months later, you get a letter from your most trusted friend, Paul. And Paul writes, "Oh, hi, I'm in jail." Ah, classic Paul, such a prison bird. "Also, your slave is with me." "Ah, thank you, my friend. Now I may send the authorities to bring him back, so that I can punish him accordingly when he gets back. Your slave has become like a son to me." What? A part of me was hesitant to send him back because I know your temper, but to withhold him would be wrong. Upon his arrival, I want you to treat him as you would me, as a brother in Christ. He is now in Christ, and therefore he is now our brother. Imagine the immediate anger you would feel. Your most loyal friend has just written in the defense of someone who wronged you so badly that in his letter he didn't even mention the deed, out of fear of arousing your anger. And then some time passes, maybe a month or two later, and you remember your friend Paul and all the stories he has told you, the stories of the forgiveness of Jesus, from the thieving tax collector to the Roman soldiers who nailed him to the cross. And you think, Paul has preached that in order to find salvation, we must have faith in Christ. And in doing so, we must strive to become reflections of Christ. And then it dawns on you, Paul has just reflected Christ perfectly. He has stood up for the sinner, saying to the offended party, "Let him be forgiven. And if you cannot forgive him, let the penalty be on me." This is the idea I want you to take home with you. If nothing else, you can forget the other two if you want to, but this is the idea I want you to take home with you. Be a reflection of Christ, to the point where you don't even know how much you resemble him, just as Paul did. Now, if you can't see how this applies to the modern day, then tell me so that I may pray for you. Now, Philemon is the second shortest book of the Bible, losing out to Obadiah by just 4 verses. But even so, just within these 8 verses are 3 major lessons that I hope to carry with me until I die. We've just seen in these short few verses that Paul talks the talk and he walks the walk, to such a level of faith that I hope to achieve one day, and a level of faith that I hope that you may achieve one day as well.